When we were writing our interpreter, we saw that JavaScript lets us modify global variables from within a function. Does this have security implications for our browser?
Oh my, oh yes. There are very tragic, very problematic security implications of the ability to overwrite or even read from a variable that you're not expecting, especially when you have a program written in JavaScript or something like PHP, another language commonly used to write web applications, that's outward facing, where adversaries can keep poking you until you fall over. One of the historically most common ways this came up, and I'll use PHP as an example, in PHP was known as registering or register global variables. Early on, PHP was commonly used to write code that would respond to web forms. Now, if you're not familiar with web forms, just think about registering for an account online or maybe buying some food or buying a book. You often have to fill in things like this is my name, this is my address, this is my credit card number, here's how much I'm paying, here's how much I'm tipping. You write all of those things in text, and then some computer program on the other side is going to do calculations on them. For example, maybe it's going to add in sales tax or calculate how much shipping is going to be or figure out when to send you some email later based on the time and your zip code and the particular shipping company. Any sort of business logic in the middle. In order to do that, though, it needs to know what your zip code was when you entered it in the form field or how much money you said you were paying. So we need to get that information. In order to make it very simple for early PHP programmers, if you wrote your web page and said, name here, this is the name field, zip code here, this is the zip code field, it might automatically make global variables in the middle of your PHP program called name and zip code. And then you could just read out of them and get whatever the user had posted in the form. This was super convenient, but also super deadly. It is phenomenally easy to take over a web page or otherwise maliciously attack a web page or a web application that uses this sort of register global variables behavior. One easy way to think about this is the values of these variables aren't set by the programmer and they may not be validated. You can't trust people on the web to always put in an exact integer for their zip code. You can't trust them not to make up fake form fields that weren't really there that contain things like am I cleared or password credentials or how much money should I give this user or what's the sale or whatnot. In essence, any bit of business logic that you had in your program, they could fake up new values for it. You thought you were giving a 10% sale, suddenly you are giving a 110% sale. Right? Worst case sort of scenario. So this register global variables approach turned out to be a really poor design decision in early versions of PHP. And these days, it's more or less off by default, but still it's what a lot of people think of when they think of global variables that we don't necessarily have control over. We're reading or writing them, but so is some adversary. This can definitely lead to security problems. Now, these days, even if register global variables isn't a PHP feature, PHP programmers will still find fun ways to make the web insecure. Functions like explode, which are very similar to things like string.split in Python, are often used to assign to local variables, trusting the user, trusting the person on the other side of some sort of web interface to be well behaved. One of the big problems with computer security is that often the adversary is not well behaved. We have to pay attention and validate these sorts of strings. So this issue that you saw in class relating to when can I change global variables? When are they in scope? Am I going to get the value that I expect or make a new one? This can have unfortunate security implications, so it's worth understanding exactly how it works.